No room. We read in Luke chapter 2 and verse 7 that Mary gave birth to Jesus and placed him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. Possibly because of the census, some would have arrived for it, but maybe others left to go to their hometown. So the main reason for the full inn was most likely that Passover was approaching. For that is probably why there were sheep being guarded on the hills around Bethlehem. Whatever the reason, there was no room. So in our nativity plays and scenes, we often see a stable being depicted with Jesus being laid in an animal's feeding trough, surrounded by the shepherds, wise men, Mary and Joseph of course, and a few animals. The reality is quite different. But it's just these two words we think about today. No room. No room at the birth of the King of Kings. Of course, it's not so much that physically there was no room in the inn, but what about spiritually in our hearts and lives? Herod and Jerusalem with him were troubled at Jesus' birth, King of the Jews. We'll look at Herod's response later, but from our Saviour's birth, through his ministry on earth, death, resurrection, and ascension, he knew strife and opposition for many who had no room for Jesus. Isn't it just the same today? Many people, especially in the generally more affluent West, do not see a need for Jesus. In other nations, cultures, traditions, and tribal customs can often rule out room for Jesus. We see it in our own society of disorder, selfishness, greed, violence, and brokenness. There is no room for Jesus. You see, when room is given to Jesus, when he is welcomed in and given space to exercise his reign, everything changes. We may feel that there is not much we can do to change our nation and the world, but if we simply give room for Jesus in our own lives, we will be surprised at the influence we can have on those around us, through and because of his reign in us. So the question to consider today is, how much room do I give to Jesus? I guess like me, if we're being honest, we can all say we can give him more room. Pause for a moment to just think about the various areas of our life, our work, our leisure and hobbies, family and relationships, and even our church. Is there more space to give to Jesus? Relinquishing places and space where we selfishly keep control? Is there a better time than through our Advent pilgrimage for releasing the reins and handing over to Jesus to direct our path and to lead us into his perfect light?